that it cannot be quelled. And as we deepen in our spiritual understanding of the universe, life shows us over and over again that indeed God is all there is. That there is nothing that is separate from this reality. And using the example of Mother Nature as God expressing itself through her, God as life prevails, despite what can look like impossible odds. Take the example of this story in the city of Nagasaki, where the second atomic bomb was dropped at the end of World War II. The epicenter of the bomb's destructive force was located approximately 800 meters from the Sano Shrine. The fireball produced by that nuclear explosion reached temperatures equivalent to the sun, millions of degrees. Scientists predicted that nothing would grow for decades. But amazingly, 2 500-year-old camphor trees survived. Only the lower halves of their trunks remained, and from those, most of the branches had been torn off. Not a single leaf remained on the mutilated trees. But they were alive, and they eventually grew again, proving the scientists wrong. At the entrance to the Shano Shrine today, these 2 tall, majestic trees stand guard, and they provide great shade for visitors of this peaceful shrine. One of the trunks has fissures and cracks, and you can see that it's all black inside. But every spring, it puts out new leaves. Many Japanese regard it as a holy monument. What unbelievable resilience, the undeniability of life, that is life, the life energy we refer to when we speak of God that can be called by many names. Our teachings tell us this. We know that this intelligence, this energy resides within everything and everyone, that it is present everywhere, all the time, in equal measure. Life, or God, does not abandon, does not give up, nor doubt, nor forsake itself. How then is it that we can have so little trust and faith in our own lives, in everything and everyone that shows up when the road we're traveling on gets rough? According to the Bible, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the conviction of things unseen. That's Hebrews, verse 11. And Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind, says, I live in the faith that there is a presence and a power greater than I am that nurtures and supports me in ways I could not even imagine. I know that this presence is all-knowing and all-power and is always right where I am. As Reverend Rita asked last week, do we intend, do we see, do we believe in more good to come? And I would ask you now, do you expect your good, the good that we so often speak of, that is God in every form, in all the areas of your life? Are you experiencing the joy and goodness of this bounteous life to which you are entitled just by virtue of your existence? The answer to this question is so tied to the question of faith. The question of faith that comes into play when we are facing what can be described as the quagmire of life, when life gets messy. When situations or circumstances evoke fear or doubt. Today, I will talk about one of the ways that I understand that it is possible to move from fear to faith. Faith is one of the most central parts of our relationship with God. No matter who we are, no matter what our walk in life, there will be trying times for us. Life does not promise to be pain-free. These difficult moments test our faith and our trust in God. Our faith is tested daily by terrible news stories that remind us of death and cruelty, by personal troubles, by the human failings of our families and friends. And this is especially poignant today, as we witness what is happening in Ukraine. But make no mistake about it, the more we live in faith, the better we are able to make our way in the world, to trust and to move forward to what is the ultimate plan for each of us. Faith makes us stronger, braver, better. Faith helps us through troubled times and allows us to help others going through their own trials. But what exactly is faith? Faith means that although at times the world looks chaotic and uncontrolled, we feel deep down that this chaotic world is not where we truly live. Rather, that our existence is guided by God's strength and power. We can know that God, as love, we can know that as God is, that love is, that peace is, and that all is in divine right order. We can and must hold this consciousness for those who cannot. And this is certainly our charge today with regard to the people of Russia, Ukraine, their leaders, and all that is taking place in the world today as a result. Since we have chosen to come here to have this human experience that we are having, it is only natural that we become caught up in the quagmire that can characterize life from time to time. Quagmire, as defined by the Cambridge Dictionary, is an area of soft, wet ground that you sink into. If you try to walk on it, you sink into it. It's also defined as a difficult, dangerous situation. In other words, a place where we might likely feel overcome, helpless or hopeless, or where we might get stuck. Life happens and our faith can be challenged. It will be challenged. What does it mean to be the spiritual beings that we know that we are, having this human experience when life happens? What do we do in trying times, in the trying moments of our lives? I've told this story before, and I tell it again now because it bears repeating. At the 2018 Affiliated New Thought Network conference, the then President Reverend Ali Benjamin spoke about the death of her son. He had taken his own life just 3 months prior. She spoke about what this experience led to for her. She asked us 3 questions, which she had been guided to ask herself as a result of his death. What if it is for me? What if it is easy? What if it is right? These are wonderful questions worth asking at any seeming roadblock or detour when facing the kinds of quagmires that can temporarily incapacitate us. I invite you to use these questions at any time when you're facing a challenge or when you're evaluating something that was a challenge that remains unresolved, or when recognizing something that is an issue, a problem, or a pattern that keeps repeating itself in your life now. Consider the issue you're having in terms of these 3 questions. What if it is for me? What if it is easy? What if it is right? So life doesn't always give us what we want. And that word good is a tricky word, because we want the good that we want. I had also lost my son a year and a half before that conference to the disease of addiction. I had completed my practitioner studies at Joyful Gathering, and I was in the midst of the Joyful Gathering Ministerial School program. I was knocked to my knees, reeling from grief, and confronted with the deepest questions about life and my own beliefs when my son died. I knew what I said I believed, but I had to ask myself, what did I really believe? One of the things I came to understand is that death at the age of 31 was his journey, and mine included losing my precious son. There was nothing to be changed or altered. That opportunity had passed. And one of the things I discovered as an unexpected byproduct of the experience of grief is that grief is merely another exquisite, albeit painful, way of experiencing love. And I learned just how very much a heart can hold without shattering. I also learned through a profound experience, a kind of mystical experience I had shortly after he died, within a week of his death, when I couldn't sleep one night, I was trying to meditate, that all is love, that is only love. And that we have come to this plane of existence to know this, that we have come to love and to be loved, and in doing so to heal and to be healed. This was a message from my son, an effort on his part to communicate the peace and love that surrounded him, and that he wanted me to know for myself. Our lives are all about the journey of healing. And when we can stand in faith despite the difficulties of the human experience, their power over us is dimmed. At these times, the experience of pain or fear or whatever negative emotion it is that we are experiencing can become a very deep blessing in our lives. These experiences can be the catapult for any one of us to develop, to cultivate, to deepen, or to solidify beyond any doubt our faith. And our faith can become more and more unshakable. I believe it does for all of us as we deepen into our spiritual understanding, does it not, as we come here every week? The kind of faith that Ernest Holmes spoke of when he said that if you are filled with fear, refill yourself with faith, for faith always overcomes fear. He said, quote, "Faith is a mental attitude that is so convinced of its own idea, which so completely accepts it, that any contradiction is unthinkable and impossible," end quote. And so I ask you this question again, one that I had to ask myself just a few days short of 5 years ago. We say that it is all God, but do we really believe this? And do we live this? And how do we respond when life happens, when things go awry, not as planned, not as hoped for? From our early years on, when we navigate loss, diagnoses, disappointment, unfulfilled hopes and dreams, all the while hampered by those pesky false beliefs that we've adopted about ourselves. Where is our faith when we're knocked to our knees, or when we're standing on the precipice of what looks like disaster? Do we assume the worst, or envision the best, knowing that miracles take place every day? That the unlimited possibilities that exist for us are even greater than what we can imagine for ourselves. That the first step to realizing the power that we hold in our very own hands to create the lives that we want is faith. Holding the knowing, staying grounded in the consciousness that love is all there is, that all is in divine right order, that divine right action and highest healing good are always taking place. In other words, that God's good is already upon us, as is everything we need already within us, and that, as the Bible says, it's God's good pleasure to give us the kingdom. We refer to having the faith of God when we're speaking in New Thought Ease. That's New Thought E-A-S-E. Get it? New Thought Ease. I believe that what this means is, in part, that every situation that comes into our lives comes by means of a universal intelligence that governs all, and that the situations and the experiences that we have that result from them occur because that intelligence knows what we need in order to be catapulted by change, or by challenge, or by being stretched beyond the limit of what we believe is possible for ourselves. This is part of the soul's journey for each of us. The means by which we learn what it is we have come to this plane of existence to know, to learn, and to be. So let's talk about the challenges to our faith as a vehicle for growth and expansion. The growth and expansion that our souls are longing for and are constantly seeking. Just as those camphor trees sought to continue to express the life that was within them, we somehow find the strength to go on, even when life hits us hard. Imagine with me now, and close your eyes if you'd like to or not. Imagine that you're facing a challenge, a difficult situation, a person, or waiting to hear a diagnosis, that you're overcome by fear. Here's a normal response for any of us living this human experience while in physical form. As the difficult emotions come up, whatever they are, imagine yourself standing on the precipice of a huge cliff that drops off into nothingness. You know that if you step off that cliff, that you will plummet into the depths below. Metaphorically speaking, you will at least be severely maimed or more likely not survive at all. And this is what it can and often does feel like when we're faced with difficult situations. Stepping off that cliff can also be likened to disappearing down the rabbit hole, where the only outcomes are negative ones that overtake our thinking and that have already happened in our minds. We jump right to the most negative possibilities, do we not? It is fear that makes this so. Things won't work out. I can't compete with him, her, them. I will only disappoint my parents, my friends, my spouse. I'm not worthy of. I will never live up to those expectations, and so forth. Okay, now, take a virtual step back for a moment, and in your mind's eye, instead of stepping off into the abyss, reach into the heart and soul of who you are and call upon that place deep within that knows. I invite you to imagine stepping onto a beautiful magic carpet that is beckoning to you right now, that is waiting for you at the edge of the cliff, at the edge of the rabbit hole. Now you are not falling. You are riding, you are gliding, you are flying, you are soaring, you are free, you are safe. Feel in your mind's eye that you know that this magical carpet will carry you and support you wherever you go. Instead of falling into the rabbit hole or plummeting into the uncertainty of the abyss, imagine that it was easy to step onto the magic carpet. You can open your eyes if you'd like. I'm not suggesting that you deny the difficult or painful emotions that characterize the way we all experience life. Far from it, they are our teachers too. And to do so would be to do what we call spiritual bypass. Like with grief, the only way to get through it is to go through it. But as you face and work through any challenge that comes your way, when you eventually become aware that you can either drop off into the bottom of the ravine, or you can step onto and ride the magic carpet, I'm suggesting that you make the choice of the magic carpet, even though you may not feel that you're capable of doing so. Our magic carpet represents faith, of course. And for the purpose of this visualization, consider what you might have experienced on that magic carpet ride. From the vantage point of the magic carpet, could you not see farther than you could have ever imagined, to where the horizon has no end? Was the view not magnificent? Did you not have a sense of the vastness of the universe, the vastness of possibility? Did you also not have an awareness that our human concerns are but a blip on the big screen of life that is life with a capital L? That there is so much beyond what is our normal, limited view. An awareness that the truth of who we are is not the physical nor the fear, but instead the truth of who we are is infinite potential, incredible beauty and wisdom, indescribable peace and strength, and so much more. I bring your attention to the option of the magic carpet ride that I liken to the experience of faith. I would like you to consider that faith could possibly be an easy and simple choice. When we can move from fear to faith, we can know with certainty that it's not limited to our five senses. We become the observer rather than the victim, and bolstered by the mind opening to infinite possibilities, we can draw to ourselves that which we desire. And in doing so, without any particular attachment to outcome, we can have total peace and serenity. For when we accept whatever comes down the road, when we can let go and let God, and know that highest good is always being served, no matter the appearance, we can stand firmly in our faith and know absolute peace and freedom. And it's not really a question of faith then. It's really just about the ability to know the truth of our teachings. As we remain steadfast and rely on our faith, as we choose to step onto the magic carpet over and over again, our faith muscles strengthen. If you would like to strengthen your faith muscles, pack your bag with these tools. The acceptance of what is, letting go of outcome, letting go completely, and knowing that the activity of God is the only activity of both the seen and the unseen. And I'm also suggesting that the answer to these questions, what if it is for me? What if it is easy? What if it is right? Might simply be yes as well. The simplest way of understanding faith for me can be summed up this way. We can always know that highest good is taking place, tempered by the fact that it may not look like what we want it to or think it should. Despite this, we can know that healing is taking place. Together now, accepting the fact that we do not always, perhaps ever, have the answers or know what highest good is, if you would repeat after me again the affirmation that we said earlier. I trust myself. I trust the universe. I release any idea that I know everything. And I easily open my heart in faith that all is well and all will be well. I have the faith of God. Choose the magic carpet ride, my friends, and allow this choice to be the easy one. What does that magic carpet represent? Faith. Good. Though through all of the challenges of life, we can move beyond fear to faith. Today, lean back and rest in faith. Remember and know the assurance of things not seen. Our ever-present oneness with God is something we can believe and experience in the very deepest part of ourselves. In closing, I quote from the NIV website, NIV standing for New International Version Bible Translation. Quote, "The world seen through the eyes of faith is a world in which each of us The world seen through the eyes of faith is a world in which each of us, along with everything that happens to us, has meaning as a greater part of the plan. Faith means that there is more to the world than what we see with our eyes. Moreover, faith is not just a mental agreement. Faith drives action. If we believe there is more to life than what we see, true faith will drive our values, decisions, and actions to align with our belief. Thank you, God, and so it is.